The CEO of United Airlines has just promised that he is going to implement DEI all throughout his company, up to and including the cockpit.
How is diversity and diversity targets working into the Aviate Academy?
We have committed that 50% of the class of the classes will be women or people of color. Today, only 19% of our pilots at United Airlines are women or people of color. And by the way, from all the data I've seen, that's the highest of any airline in the country.
White males don't just dominate in the cockpits, also in the C-suite at United Airlines.
Well, look, at United, I'm proud of the diversity that we actually have in our C-suite. I think if you look around corporate America.
Correct me if I'm saying, though, so this was just based off your website, the people you list as executives, but out of 11 people, 3 are women. I believe 1 is a person of color.
That's correct. But, in corporate America, I think,
That's a low bar. How do you raise your own bar?
Well, a lot of this is, focusing on it. We have programs one of the things we do is for every job when we do an interview, we require women and people of color to be involved in the interview process, bringing people in early in their careers as well, and giving them those opportunities and creating a stronger bench.
Okay. I don't care what this man does to his C-suite. I don't care if he fills it all with a bunch of lesbian, pygmy, Muslim, Zoroastrians. I don't care. The cockpit worries me. DEI is necessarily opposed to quality. Necessarily. Because what DEI says is, we're going to make you use diversity, equity, and inclusion standards to deprioritize merit when you hire someone or admit someone to university or bring someone into your club. We're going to deprioritize merit because we're boosting sex or race or sexual behaviors or whatever. Some liberals have tried to argue that DEI actually accentuates quality and merit. That is logically impossible because the entirety of what DEI is saying there are other considerations that you should place above merit or candidate quality. DEI in restaurants means that you value diversity more than your dinner. Okay. DEI in universities means that you value diversity more than your education. No, that's not good. That's a little scary. DEI in the cockpit means that you value diversity more than your life. And I do not. I don't really like diversity as the liberals talk about it. I think it's a pretty dark thing and not conducive to anyone's flourishing. I think it's just radical leftist politics and degrading to everyone. I certainly don't like it more than I like my life. This is madness. This is actual suicide. Michael, are you saying that a black woman can't fly an airplane? I'm sure some black women can fly airplanes. But I am certain that DEI policies will lower the candidate quality of the pilots. And I don't want to get on those planes. Luckily, I don't really fly United that much, so that's good for me. But if you do, sorry, I guess we should all pray that this turns around because that won't turn out very well. I posted a Twitter poll yesterday, an X poll now we call it. Yesterday was Martin Luther King Day, and I didn't even remember it was Martin Luther King Day until the end of the day. I noticed that there was some anti-MLK posting going around on social media. MLK had become kind of controversial. And so I said, hey, do you think Martin Luther King was a hero? When I was growing up, everyone thought Martin Luther King was a hero. Do you think he was a hero, or do you think he's overrated? And I said, an answer according to your age. So if you're 44 and over, pick this button. And if you're under 44, click this button. And I chose 44 because that's the cutoff for Gen X. So I wanted to see how the Gen X and the boomers differed from the millennials and the Zoomers here. And for Gen X and the boomers, it was 50-50, which is actually somewhat surprising to me. 50-50. MLK is overrated versus MLK is a hero. For the younger people on this highly scientific Twitter poll that I just put out there, but it got a zillion votes. A lot of people retweeted it. It was 3-2. overrated. A clear majority of the younger people responding to that poll said overrated. And that part I believed. I got the sense that younger people are not as hot on Martin Luther King as older people. Why is this? Is it because the younger people are more racist or something? No, I don't think it's that exactly. Is it because they're less educated? No, I don't think it's that exactly. I think it's that we're in a moment of major political shift, and part of that shift is we're tearing down a lot of statues and we're upending a lot of myths, and that happens a lot, and it's happening all over the place. We live in an age where people are tearing down statues of Christopher Columbus and George Washington, okay? And Martin Luther King is as close to a secular saint as there can be. He is in the pantheon of the liberal secular deities, at least a saint, if not an outright deity. But we're not only going to be tearing down statues of old white guys from the 18th century, we're going to be tearing down all of the statues. We're in an age of debunking. That's the word. It's kind of a stupid word, but that's the word that is so popular. We're going to debunk everything. We're going to demystify everything. We're going to disenchant. We're going to rip up these myths. And so the Zoomers who say they think MLK is overrated, they've got decent enough reason to. I mean, there was the discovery in recent years that the man was witness to a rape and kind of laughed about it, that Martin Luther King palled around with communists, even if he wasn't a communist himself, that Martin Luther King, though presented as a Christian reverend, didn't really believe in the most basic aspects of Christianity. He denied the divinity of Christ. He denied the miracles. It was a little complicated, plagiarized his PhD thesis, which now is a bigger issue because we just booted the president of Harvard University for that. So yeah, those are all the knocks on him. The man also did really great things, though. But in the age of debunking, in the age of demystifying and disenchanting, we ignore the great things. We ignore the great things George Washington did. We ignore the great things Lincoln did. We're certainly going to ignore the great things Martin Luther King did. And so that would be the reason why someone on the right might be a little skeptical of King. And then the left has hated Martin Luther King for quite a while now. Because even though King was presented for some time as a left-wing figure, now the left is not so interested in I have a dream that we won't be judged on the color of our skin. Now the left is much more interested in Malcolm X than they are in Martin Luther King. Now, rather than seeing Martin Luther King as a symbol of a major progressive victory in the 1960s, they see him as an impediment to real radical change. And the left now is far more radical than it was 10, 20, 30 years ago. So Martin Luther King's coming down. And people are going to be very upset about this. I don't really care one way or the other. I think the man did some great things. I think the man had some problems too. And when I consider saints, I usually consider Christian saints. Like the saints canonized by the church. I'm not saying that secular liberal culture can't canonize some good people along the way too. They certainly have, but it's just not my primary focus. But it happens. It happens. The great heroes of one age, they disappear. So the question now is, who are the heroes we're going to raise up in their place? We're in a very destructive moment. What are we going to build up in their place, if anything at all? Because it's a lot easier to destroy than it is to build. What a great clip. Now, hold up, ring that bell, subscribe to the Michael Knowles YouTube channel. We'll see you next time.